Pieter Dirk Uys, thank you so much for joining us on the Spotlight. It's such an incredible honor sitting here with you.
Thank you.
I have to say my palms were sweating earlier today when I knew I was going to come and chat to you.
No.
Let's get straight to it. I love the title of this new show. When in doubt, say darling. Who wouldn't love that title, right?
Do you know, it's come with me a long time. I usually start with the title. It sometimes takes me 5 to 10 years to get a show. But the title is always, it's always the happy animal at the door that doesn't bite you but smiles at you. Meaning, if I say to people, I'm doing a new show called When in Doubt, Say Darling, they go, ah, now that is, I've got them in the house. I went down to the railway station and there was the little blikhuisie and I thought, okay, this is going to be interesting. And then a train came rumbling past, one of these big goods trains. I live in a town called Darling, number one. I am in the theatre, so I do tend to call people darling because it's a nice, friendly punctuation. Even if you're crossing something, say, darling. You know, it says a lot, the word.
When you want something.
Everyone's like, oh, darling, to the cats, you know. Oh, sweetie kitty, darling. Or again, at my age, which is 72, I think one starts forgetting names of people. And you see somebody, you know them so well, but yes, you can't remember. Hello, darling. But then again, I go into things in the show. I mean, we are now in this minefield of hashtags and hate speech. There's the K word, and the F word, and the B word, and the S word, and the R word. And my goodness, what is left? Well, I use the D word, darling. And when you look at your GPS of Darling, when the map from the cloud, and you look at all the roads, the longest street in Darling is called the Evita Besaidnout Boulevard. No. Helen Ziller doesn't have a boulevard.
Just, would you mind taking us more into detail with the show and this run here at the Fugard Theatre? Of course, you've been elsewhere in the country.
I put into the structure of this show stories about my experiences in Darling with the community, but mainly with the kids. Mainly with the little ones who are 10, who are 12, some are 5, who are in the early childhood development center, who are suddenly understanding that the world is round. Waar is ons? Waar is ons? Ik zeg, ons is daar. Nee, is zo ver onder, ons gaan afvallen. They're 5 years old. Ik zeg, ons gaan niet afvallen. And then, you know, it's just, I've learned one thing in my 22 years there, that there is always an alternative to bad news, and that is good news. But you've got to find it. And the place you really find it is among the people you love, the people you know, your community, your neighbors, your friends, your family. If
people ask me, what is South Africa famous for? I can think of, like, I'd say Table Mountain, the Winelands, the Big Five, Gatsby's, Fish and Chips, and Pieter Dirk Uys. Oh, Evita Besaidnout.
Well, there you are. Rather her than me. I'm scared of being in the same bracket with her.
I mean, you're an author, an actor, an activist with a wealth of successful works under your belt. You know, dating back to the 70s. How on earth do you keep on going all these years later?
Well, either I've got a very good little battery that keeps going and going and going. But you know what really is the key for me is believing in the possibilities. Optimism is a word which I suppose is a good close word. I have always been nervous of the use of the word failure. I don't think it's a good word because people stop. When somebody said it's a failure, they stop. And I think when I look back on all those years, it's the moments that people said, oh, it's a failure. And I think, no, you can't say this child has been born and it's not going to grow up. You've got to find out what's wrong with it. And that's how you learn your technique and your structures.
That is God Save the Queen. We are a republic. There are no queens in South Africa.
I get nervous every time I'm going to chat to somebody that I really look up to, you know, an icon like yourself. Do you still get nervous when you go onto stage?
I don't use the word nervous. I use the word excited. Excited means I can do it. Nervous means I can't do it. I mean, you still do the same thing physically, but it has put you in a different bracket. The moment you think, oh, I'm nervous, and then, but when you say, I'm excited, you breathe better, your whole body language is better. So that's, again, words, you know, using the right word.
I'm definitely going to bear that in mind next time. So I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited, okay.
You're known as South Africa's king of satire. What spurred the interest so many years back?
I think I started off in a very childish way trying to really piss off my father and the dominee and the policeman. I mean, I was just brought up in a very strict Afrikaans background, a very good, loving family. I didn't make jokes as a kid. I wasn't involved with politics. I wanted to be a teacher. I think it only started at university when I went to drama school, and I suddenly understood the alphabet of drama and understood that really truly the one way to get people's attention is not to frighten them, is not to force them, but to seduce them with the story and with humor. I think humor is my weapon of mass distraction.
You've lived through and seen both sides of the South African coin, can I say that? A pre and post apartheid South Africa. How do you feel right now in today's South Africa?
Oh my goodness, 24 years into a democracy that nobody thought could happen. I am so thrilled to be here in this South Africa of today. Democracy will never be perfect. It'll always be a mess because everybody's fingerprints are on the chalice of freedom. I really think that we are a healthy democracy. We've got freedom of expression, freedom of speech. We are arguing about things like constitutional rights, about land development. And I just think the biggest problem is we still have this respect and this fear of government. They are the royal family. I don't think that's the way. Politicians are there to clean up behind us. They have the brooms. We must have the ideas. Evita always says, if the people lead, the government must follow.
What were some of your career highlights? And I'm sure there's plenty, besides, of course, meeting and working with Sophia Loren. I saw that picture.
Every good performance, every exciting performance is a highlight, but there have been moments. I mean, meeting Nelson Mandela, having Nelson Mandela really fall in love with Evita. Oh, Pieter, where's Evita? And I think one of my most wonderful memories is when I was on stage with him, I think the 20th time during those years when he had these wonderful gatherings of people about HIV and about people and about children and about democracy. And they'd bring Evita, Evita, I want to Evita. So Evita would have a 15 minutes of fame. And I was standing, he was holding Evita's hand, people were clapping, and I said to him, President Mandela, every time you see me, I'm dressed as Evita Besaidnout. He said, don't worry, Pieter, I know you inside.
Oh, bless you.
Wonderful. And I still think the legacy of Mandela is the glue that will keep us together as a country. Sophia, extraordinary. As a little 11-year-old boy, I fell in love with this picture in a magazine, and she's my friend and she's my inspiration, and we share so many marvelous things together. Highlights happen constantly. I think just the fact that I'm 72 and I can still walk fast in high heels makes me feel pretty okay.
Well, I have to tell you, this is a highlight for me. Okay, this is a career highlight for me. We are all familiar with your characters on stage. But who is Pieter really when he's out there in the quaint little town of Darling?
I worked very hard because I've been unemployed since 1975, since the apartheid government said, "Jy mag dit nie doen nie." So I thought, okay, let's see who survives. So, which means I've got to do everything. I mean, I really have to plan and I have to structure and I have to look ahead. And I have to keep healthy, and I have to keep in touch with what's going on. And so it's a full-time job. And I also know how to relax. I also believe very specifically in allowing yourself to do nothing for 5 or 10 minutes. Just don't think. People say, oh no, I must think. No, you don't. I have my cats. You know, they are such a therapy. I have a cat sitting on my lap. The cat purrs and I purr, and we purr together. And so really, truly, I think the private life of me is very, precious to me.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall and see you at home.
The flies have got to be very careful, otherwise they have to learn lines and sing and dance.
Okay, would you mind sharing with us and our viewers just maybe 1 or 2 or 3 things we didn't know about you? Favorite foods, favorite colors. We now know that you have cats. You're a cat lover.
Oh, always, always. What people didn't know. Oh, you know, the one thing that I keep on thinking is a normal thing, and when I say to people, they say, what? When I'm in a swimming pool and it rains, I get out of the swimming pool because I don't want to get wet. Okay. Do you know how many people say, gosh, me too? I think, really? Okay. I suppose something weird about me is that I diet for a woman who doesn't exist. I diet for Evita. I mean, I really keep my weight in a place where she will look good at.
But you still haven't told me your favorite food. What is that?
Spaghetti from Sophia's cookbook, because I can make it, I can make it. Hey, I love it, I love it.
Well, Pieter, it was so incredible chatting to you on the spotlight. We wish you all the best with your show, and I have to say, you've been a real darling today.
Thank you, darling.